From the KSL Broadcast House, this is Sunday Edition with Doug Wright.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday Edition. I'm Deanie Wimmer, in for Doug Wright. In 3 weeks, Utahns will have an opportunity to cast their vote in this year's midterm elections. Before casting their votes, Utahns will have had an opportunity to hear from some of the candidates on the debate stage. The Utah Debate Commission has been hosting a handful of debates this month with candidates running for the U.S. congressional House seats and soon the U.S. Senate. Joining me first on the show this morning is the Executive Director of the Utah Debate Commission, Erik Nielsen. Good morning, Erik.
Good morning, Deanie. Thank you for having me on your show.
Pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Let's talk about the debates so far. In the most recent case, Burgess Owens skipped Wednesday's debate for the 4th Congressional District. He took issue with a cartoon in the Salt Lake Tribune that ran that likened him or he said compared him to a KKK member. And he took issue also because the moderator was from the Salt Lake Tribune. The Debate Commission stood by your choosing of the moderator and the event went forward. Was it?
That is correct.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your decision to stand by and how you thought it turned out.
You know, I think Lauren Gussis did an excellent job as a moderator of the debate. I think we made the right decision. The Salt Lake Tribune is a longstanding partner, and Lauren is a board member of the Debate Commission. And you know, the whole point of the Debate Commission is that we're nonpartisan, we're independent, we're fair, and I believe the questions she asked were just that. They were questions that both candidates could respond to from an equal footing. And you know, we would have liked to have had Representative Owens there, but I think the debate went very well.
There has been a larger, I don't know, you hate to call it a trend, but there has been a willingness for Republican candidates this political season to skip the debates, and that's got to be concerning. Yeah,
it is kind of sad. I mean, I think it's sad for the voters. The debates are interesting vehicles, but rarely do you have an opportunity to hear two opposing viewpoints, two contrast, or maybe two similar viewpoints, but candidates who are running for office, which is to represent the constituents in their district or of their state, and actually hear people what they have to say about that, and hear maybe somebody who thinks something different, and they're both on the stage together and they're forced to answer questions. Those opportunities are rare, and so it saddens me of this nationwide trend that you speak of.
Yeah, and just to further ask you, I know we'll get back to the specific debates in a second, but the debates, even with today's many venues and many ways of communicating with voters, debates serve an important purpose.
I agree, exactly. I mean, a lot of it seems to take place candidate to the voter directly, which is great, but to actually be in a conversation with someone on stage is unique to debates.
Talk to me about the congressional first debate, the first congressional district debate with incumbent Blake Moore and challenger Rick Jones.
That was really fun. I was up at Weber State University, and I had not known Rick Jones. I think he was a wonderful candidate, and Blake Moore, I've spoken to him several times. I think that debate went very well. The moderator of that debate was Carrie Bringhurst from Utah Public Radio, and we went through a wide variety of topics that I think concern people in the first district. I was happy with how that one went.
We've got a debate tonight, 2nd Congressional District, very important because that district comprises about half of the state. We've got incumbent Chris Stewart, Cassie Easley, and Nick Mitchell as the opponents.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. The 4th district also had 3 candidates who qualified for the debate, as does this one. And so it feels like it's a different debate when you have 3 candidates on stage. But we have a threshold of 10% with a margin of error built in, where if a third-party candidate does qualify within our poll, then they're invited to come debate. And again, when we're talking about diversity of opinion and having conversations between people running for office and conversations about different policy solutions or policy interests, I think it's a spectrum, and it serves the public to hear from a third candidate.
Marketplace of ideas, like you talk about. Monday, October 17th, we have the U.S. Senate debate between incumbent Mike Lee and challenger Evan McMullin. That one's hosted by Doug Wright.
That one's the big one that everybody's looking at. We're getting some national attention on that. Probably going to be carried on a couple of national networks, and we reporters coming in from all over the country for that one. That's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that one.
Important to note that the backdrop of that, this is one of the most expensive congressional races, and certainly here in Utah.
Yes, it is.
I misspoke. Senate races.
So I'm just happy that we have both candidates on our stage together. That's going to be quite an event.
In the history, how does Utah rank as far as having debates and civic dialogue and using that to help educate our electorate?
So Utah is one of the few states that has a debate commission that's modeled after the Commission on Presidential Debates, which organizes the debates for candidates for presidents and vice presidents. And we're very well respected across the country for the work that we do. And it's really good that we have the buy-in from the candidates. I think we've earned a reputation of producing debates for 10 years now that the candidates support us and are generally willing to participate in our debates.
You know, and where Utah spans such a large geographical area, you'll get questions from not only from the moderators, but from people in those areas that can range from homelessness in urban areas to agriculture and farming in other areas.
You know, it's really a great format that we have. We not only have questions from the moderator, but on each campus, we invite students to come and submit a question and potentially come and ask their representative or their next representative a direct policy question, which, you know, that's a lot of power. I don't think a lot of people have that opportunity to actually speak to the representative one-on-one, say, how are you going to solve this problem? And it's one of the best things about this project that we have, and having students come on and ask these questions to and being involved. Right,
all aspects of that. You learn a lot, and it's a great opportunity. Erik, thanks for your work to facilitate these debates, and we wish you luck in how the season continues.
Thank you, Deanie.
KSL will continue to air the debates. You can watch the United States Senate debate, as we mentioned, between Senator Mike Lee and challenger Evan McMullin, right here on KSL TV Monday night at 6 o'clock. We'll be right back with a look at how the candidates are scoring this week on the Dignity Index. Welcome back. Another round of Dignity Index scores have been released, scoring the words candidates are using this election cycle, not the candidates themselves. Here to talk about the recent scores are Maura Carabello from the Exoro Group and Jesse Graham from the University of Utah. Thank you both for being here on what's an exciting project.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Just to recap, so that people know about what the Dignity Index is. This is a project that was launched about a week ago, and it looks at the actual words candidates are using and measures an important part of our political discourse.
That's right. What's really exciting about this is it's launching in Utah. This is the national pilot project. The hope is that it goes nationally, but we're going to be the testing grounds, and this election cycle is really applying this index for the first time. And as you said, well, we talk a lot about the scorecards of voting, or we talk about the fact-checking. These are not those. These, in fact, are how our candidates or campaigns broader or political action committees, what words are they using? How are we treating each other? What's the interaction?
And Jesse, why is that so important? Why do we need to look at dignity?
It's really important because the opposite end of dignity is contempt. And so a lot of what we're coding is not just signs of dignity, showing dignity to the other side, but signs of contempt for the other side.
We see a lot of that.
We see a lot of that, that's right.
And what is the repercussion of the contempt that is in our political discourse right now?
Part of it is, I think it just becomes this never-ending cycle where, you know, you feel contempt coming from the other side, and so you feel licensed to show contempt to that side, and it just keeps getting worse and worse.
And for voters, it's wearing, right? We see ourselves being disenfranchised, and we say, oh, enough, I don't want to participate. Now, ironically, we're a part of the call and response. So in a weird way, we're responding to it well. So this helps with how am I hearing things? Am I reinforcing things I don't want to? But it is part of that. I think we all feel overwhelmed and a little disenfranchised by politics.
Sure. So we know how it works. Who codes? Who measures this and figures that?
Yeah, so we've assembled a team of about 20 coders who are ideologically diverse. So it's really important to us, because they're coding these political passages, that we not have all liberals or all conservatives. And so we've gone through several rounds of training with an ideologically diverse group of coders, libertarians, moderates, liberals, conservatives, and we now have them working in groups of 3 or 4, and so they'll code the passages. We also have liberals and conservatives choosing the passages that they code from, say, debates or campaign materials. And we have them coming together in groups of 3 or 4 they first code these passages independently on the 8-point dignity index scale. And then they come together and have a conversation. So if there's any discrepancy in their codings, they talk about it, and then they all come to consensus. And so we really want this to be a thoughtful, sort of bipartisan process.
And importantly, they came to consensus. So you do have the ability of a broad political spectrum to be able to identify what they mutually found contemptuous and dignified.
Well, let's apply it, okay? We've got the scores from the first congressional district debate. Both incumbent Blake Moore and challenger Rick Jones scored a 6 at one point. Then they also scored a 4 and a 3. So we're going to listen to their low scoring clip, and then we'll react, and then the higher scoring clip.
It's one of my biggest frustrations and criticisms of President Biden is there was plenty going on that was going well. You didn't have to just repeal everything that was going on. You could have actually looked at a lot of the things that were in place, and regulation was something that was moving in the right direction. And we had very smart regulation that actually targeted some of the issues.
I really do feel like we're at a very unique juncture in our history, and very much democracy is on the ballot. And that Kevin McCarthy, who would likely be Speaker of the House if there's enough Republicans elected, has made it very clear that he has pretty much no commitment to government by the consent of the governed, and his power is a result of gerrymandering and other shenanigans. So I would like the voters to consider that.
Okay, what did you hear there?
I'll start maybe with the lower score, which was the second clip we saw. It ranked a 3. And I think part of the rationale was it was very reductive. It brought in Kevin McCarthy and said all Republicans were this way. And it challenged that they were breaking apart the fundamentals of democracy. It wasn't about an individual. It wasn't about an idea. Yeah. It was very reductive and wholesale, sort of indicting.
Okay.
Yeah. And that first clip was a 4, which I think of as sort of the beginning of contempt. And that's basically saying, I'm better than the other side. They're doing a bad job. They're incompetent.
They didn't have to do this.
Yeah, they didn't have to do this, but it's not necessarily bad character. That second clip, getting a 3, is getting more into bad character. You know, this person's doing things that are dishonest and shenanigans, and so it's getting into bad character. And then when you get down to 2, it's more like they're evil, they're an existential threat, and a 1 is it is our moral duty to destroy them.
All right, well, let's compare that then to the higher scoring clip.
Okay.
Yes, we absolutely do have a role to play, and I was excited that on July 31st, right before the August sort of district work period, we were able to pass our bill through the House of Representatives. I co-sponsored legislation with Representative Jared Huffman out of Northern California. It's called the Saline Lakes Ecosystem Great Basin Program Act. It's a long name. We call it the Great Salt Lake Bill colloquially in our office.
I think one of the solutions to reducing cost actually came out of Utah a number of years ago with Utah Governor Mike Leavitt helping to create Western Governors University.
Okay, what did you hear different in that? Go ahead.
I just think in both cases, they're saying something good about the other side. They're showing a willingness to work with the other side in the case of the first one. And in the second one, he's saying, you know, this is a great thing that came from a Republican governor.
So I want to note when we say working with the other side, one of the things so I'm in politics, and one of the things I want to say is dignity can sound passionate. We can disagree in a dignified way. It's not that we're saying be nice to each other. This is not about being nice. This is about those clips were about policy. They weren't about partisanship. They were saying, exactly. But you could still be passionate. You and I could still be really clear about our disagreements. We could just do it in a way that we're listening to each other and where the voter in this instance could differentiate and hear. So it's not a be nice score. It's a be clear and stand for something, not be partisan.
All right, well, we've got the 4th congressional district debate. We should point out that Burgess Owens declined to attend, but Darlene McDonald scored a 7 at one point, and January Walker a 6. Then on the lower end, they scored a 3. Let's listen again to their low score first, and then we'll stop and react.
The reason to not solve this problem is exactly what's happening right now in this election cycle at the southern border, where they use the immigration crisis as a political wedge issue. We are talking about human beings, not a football. These are human beings, cannot be used as your political football. Let's solve this immigration problem by coming to the table, sitting down, and actually working this out, because we can.
There is a divide. But the question begs, what is causing that current divide? And as a candidate, one of the things that became very apparent over time is that the people that are currently elected in office have absolutely no incentive to fix the problems that are in our nation today. They actually profiteer off of it. And when we look at the major political parties, they feed off of each other like parasites.
I will not, in good conscience,
Okay, so what came out of those? We heard some words that were clearly what you would think of in dignity. Or
yeah.
lack of it.
Yeah, the lack of dignity. I think the word parasites was kind of a key one there, right? When you start name calling like that. And it was pretty clear in both of the clips that there were some sort of, implied accusations of bad character on the other side.
The analysis about the other side was about their character, their lack of it, and espousing motivation to it instead of saying, listen, here's what I want to see changed. Again, you can criticize in a dignified way. This was more of an indictment of character.
Okay. Now, there's a point I want us to make, and we're running short on time. So rather than show these clips, I just want to ask, as we're looking to apply these standards to the candidates, I think you raise a really good point that we should apply these standards to ourselves. Yeah.
That's been one of the best things, is to acknowledge that we all at one point or another we don't think of this, but I will say I'm sometimes contemptuous. I run out of patience and I say, that was stupid. I am not listening to you anymore. I don't trust where you're coming from. So what the benefit of this is to start listening to ourselves. And that could even apply, I'll say, to my household, to my kids. It could apply to my coworkers. When we learn how to communicate in our entire community, we're better off.
All right, great application. Thank you both for your time and your expertise on this project. We'll be right back. Welcome back. With the midterm election now 3 weeks away, mail-in ballots are being prepared to be sent out to Utah voters. County clerks will start sending out those ballots starting on Tuesday, October 18th. Joining me now to talk about all things Utah voters need to know is Salt Lake County Clerk Sherrie Swensen. And Sherrie, this is the last election season that you will oversee. You have such a legacy, 60 some odd elections.
Yes, that's true. Almost 32 years. At the beginning of January, it will be 32 years I'll have been in office.
So much has changed over your tenure. Reflect on some of that.
Well, when I came into office in 1991, we were voting at traditional polling places. People had to go to an assigned location.
Yep.
In person. There was very little absentee. They had to have a reason that they voted absentee. They had to have an excuse. And it transitioned to us being able to provide a vote-by-mail system where we automatically mail ballots to active registered voters. They don't have to apply. We have generic vote centers. We've implemented early voting, so they can go to any early voting or election day vote center if they prefer to vote in person, and it is so convenient.
And the results come out so much faster now.
Well, except for the people that turn their ballots in on the last day.
Right.
But it's wonderful. It gives people an opportunity to get their ballot earlier, look at the candidates, the issues, and make more informed decisions.
How has that changed the turnout for elections in Salt Lake County?
It has skyrocketed. In the November 2020 general election, we saw a 90% turnout, unprecedented, of a record number of registered voters. We've never seen anything like that.
So you would feel like most of these changes have been for the good?
Absolutely. I would never want to go back to what we were doing before, where people had to figure out which polling place to go to, show up in person. It has been a tremendous advantage, and the changes are excellent.
And yet, though, in your position, I'm sure you've seen the divisiveness and the political tension that probably didn't exist before this technology.
That's true. I mean, but the allegations are baseless about vote by mail being fraudulent. There have not been cases of fraud. We verify every signature on the ballot affidavit, and the few times that another family member has signed for the individual, it's been minuscule.
Yeah.
So it has not created fraud. It's an excellent system.
What is the hardest part to get that message out?
to, first of all, the message on the affidavit envelope itself. It warns them that this is to be signed by only the voter, and that it is a penalty to sign someone else's envelope.
In this era then of concern, maybe we could couch it as concern, questions, what message do you have for voters?
Just that it is a felony to sign someone else's ballot, and that it is, with everything that we've done to implement the security, it is a safe, secure system, that they can believe in it and trust it. And we do all kinds of tours. We answer hundreds and hundreds of emails and phone calls just to assure them. There's an option where they can track their ballot. They can sign up for that to make sure that we get their ballot returned and follow this ballot through the system, so they can be assured.
They can be assured of the safety. How about the feeling that votes still matter, that elections still matter, and that your individual vote still matters?
We have seen some very close elections, and it does matter. It can come down to, we've seen a House district race in 2016 that was decided by 5 votes out of 14,000. We've seen city council races that were decided by 3 votes difference. Every vote counts. It does matter.
Still today.
Yes.
We talked about the system and how it's changed and how technology's changed. Talk about your role, how that has changed in the era of that we live in.
Well, my role is I oversee the elections, marriage, passport, council clerk for Salt Lake County, and so I have been very involved in legislative changes, working with the legislators and with other county clerks throughout the state to look at the bills that are sponsored and try to bring about some of the changes that have made our systems better.
Utah really has been known for one of the early leaders in electronic and not in-person voting.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Well, Sherrie, thank you for all you have done over all of these years. You leave behind such a legacy, and all to get out the word and to get out the voters that would otherwise undermine this election if we didn't have that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Sunday Edition. We hope you'll join us next week. Music and the spoken word is next.